Cop surprised after pullover. State troopers often have a lot of stories to tell. They meet thousands of people in their lifetime, and about half of them are of the odd sort. State Trooper Michael Patterson was one such trooper. His story is a one-of-a-kind story that will blow your minds with its crazy coincidences. It was a regular day at work. Michael had been going about his task like he did every day. Most of his work included keeping the roads and highways secure. As exciting as that job sounds, it wasn't very fun, but rather monotonous. Once you've performed a traffic stop, you've performed a traffic stop 1,000 times. There's nothing new to the job, which is why Michael never really found his work exciting. But little did he know his work was going to bring him the most important moment of his life. The greater part of every day was spending pulling over individuals who broke minor traffic rules. It was the simple process of calling out to the offender, pulling over their car and writing them a ticket. But what was worse than the monotony of the job was the fact that no one liked seeing Michael as he pulled them over, which made for really snippy attitudes and more snark than Michael wanted to deal with. On that fateful day, he was assigned to patrol Kingswood Township Highway. Michael was observing the roads calmly when a BMW passed him. He immediately turned on the police siren and signalled for the driver to pull over. What was it about the car that made Michael pull it over? The car was a sleek, white BMW. It was relatively normal looking and wasn't even overspeeding or driving erratically. Instead, the car had tinted windows that were tinted far beyond the legal limit. Many people like tinting the windows of their cars, especially if the cars they own are white. Normally, tinting isn't an offence, but there's a limit of how much you can tint. Tinting your windows too much can restrict your visibility. It is something most troopers never even notice. But Michael had always been exceptional in his job, and what was about to happen was almost meant to be. Michael chose to act on his duty and pulled the tinted BMW over. He decided to find the driver and also chat with him to remind him of state regulations. The driver's thoughts were confused about why he'd been pulled over, since he was very careful driving according to the speed limit. He rolled down his window as Michael approached and asked the trooper why had he been pulled over. Michael very calmly explained the whole situation to the driver. When the driver learned of the tinted windows, he was immediately embarrassed. At this, Michael told him not to worry about it since most of the public was prone to making this mistake. But the driver just laughed and told Michael that he was embarrassed because he used to be a state trooper as well and he should have recognised his mistake. This sparked some curiosity within Michael and he asked the driver when he retired. He told Michael he had retired some while ago and had served 30 years before he retired. He explained he was doubly embarrassed because a young state trooper noticed the tinted windows from afar and he couldn't get the right tint for his car. The topic of the driver's state trooper service sparked a lot of interest with Michael and they both started chatting on the spot. Meeting a veteran trooper on the job was an opportunity that didn't come along every day and Michael wanted to make the most of it. While chatting with the driver, the young state trooper found out that the driver's name was Matthew Bailey, and he had served in another city not too far from there. In fact, he was just 40 miles away from the city Piscataway. When Michael heard the name of the city, which was his birthplace, he had a feeling that he was missing something, but what could it be? He had never met Matthew before then, so Michael had no idea why he was feeling a sort of familiarity. Little did he know his gut feeling was correct. As the two troopers, old and young, chatted up, they started trading stories about the different kinds of people they had met and the incidents that they had faced as a trooper. They spoke about the crazy things that they had to face as a state trooper and how they solved most problems. Matthew was still speaking when it suddenly clicked to Michael why he felt as if Matthew was familiar to him. He suddenly asked Matthew out of nowhere what his age was. After blurting out the question, he started worrying whether a kind of question like this would be considered rude by the other man. But Matthew just took it in a stride and answered with his own question, asking the younger man to answer the question himself first. Though Matthew asked the question as a joke because of the young trooper's boldness and not because he was particularly interested. He became contemplative when he heard the answer. Michael had been born on the 5th of October 1991. The birthday and hometown were too much of a coincidence for Matthew to ignore what had become evident to him. In a bit of disbelief, Matthew asked Michael what street he lived in back when he lived there. Though Michael was sort of hesitant to answer the question, his need to get answers and increasing excitement made him blurt out the answer. The answer left Matthew reeling with surprise. Michael lived on a road called Poe Palace. What story got revealed because of this information was the stuff of movies. After hearing Michael's answer, Matthew told Michael to sit tight for a story that is near to unbelievable. On the day Michael Patterson was born, Matthew had been on duty on Poe Palace Road. It was a small dead-end road in a small unknown town. There had been a call and the then amateur trooper responded. With only 4 years under his belt, he was still considered a rookie. When he had received the call, it had been a low emergency call, but very soon dispatch told him to hurry over to Poe Palace. A woman needed help. The woman in question was Karen. Karen had been 9 months pregnant that day, and she was going into labour and had no one around to help her get to hospital. The mother had gone out grocery shopping with her young 10-year-old child. Halfway through her shopping though, Karen knew something was wrong, as she began to feel intense pain in her lower back. Having gone through this ordeal, she knew she was going into labour. It was then that young Matthew arrived on the scene. Matthew tried to help a very pregnant Karen into his car, but Karen could not even make it halfway to the car. At this crucial moment, Matthew had a choice to make. Should he have risked it and took Karen to the hospital, which was very far, or drive Karen back to the safety and comfort of her own home? Matthew made a split-second decision and took Karen to her home, where her anxious spouse was waiting. By then, Karen was in intense labour, and it was evident to everyone that Karen could not be shifted to the hospital for the delivery of the baby. Karen needed to give birth to her child, but there was no doctor on site. That's when Matthew went above and beyond the call of duty. He asked Karen's husband to patch him up to Karen's doctor. It was an insane idea for Matthew, who only knew the first aid taught to all state troopers, to pull this off. But it was better than her husband trying, who had no idea of anything medical. From the phone, Karen's doctor coached Matthew on all the steps and things he should do. After a couple of hours, a baby boy was safely born. That baby boy was named Michael Patterson. This reveal blew Michael away. He was so stunned he stammered for a while. He was unable to put words together. He had already heard this story many times from his mother and father, but he never imagined meeting the legendary state trooper on the side of the road like this. The coincidence was something out of this world. He was about to reply when a car sped by. This brought Michael back to the real world, and he excused himself from Matthew's company and said his goodbyes. He wrote Matthew a ticket for the tinted windows, and Matthew went on his way. Though Michael wished to talk more and thank Matthew for all he did, he realised he had a duty and let it go. Fortunately, he had Matthew's address thanks to the ticket he had issued. Days later, Michael found Matthew and they both greeted each other like old friends. He thanked Matthew for all he had done for his mother and himself. He was still in awe of how they had found each other because of a tinted window, but the troopers had a laugh over it. It's funny how some of the most special moments of our life can start from something as small as a tinted window. If you like this shocking story, hit the like button. For more surprising real-life stories, subscribe to our channel.